Because your neighbors who just dropped 40 bucks on a hanging basket of disposable petunias are stuck in a relentless financial trap. I mean, think about it. They buy it gets totally crispy and dies by August, and then what? They go out and buy it again next year? That is the system. But you are about to walk entirely out of that trap with the Kyoto-style summer garden blueprint.
$40. That's the literal cost of staying stuck in that annual trap. But right now, since we're in June, you actually have this short, incredible window to escape it. The soil is warm, the roots are hungry, and we're going to look at perennials that don't just survive this planting window, they absolutely explode into it. By July, instead of a yard with just a few temporary sad flowers, you're going to have a permanent, beautifully layered Kyoto-style destination, a space so textured and so quiet it literally makes people stop talking when they walk into it.
Now, I want you to sit with this mystery for the duration of this explainer. Which plant actually performs better the worse you treat it? We're going to reveal what we'll call plant number 6 a bit later on, and trust me, it completely defies all mainstream gardening logic. Throughout this whole explainer, we're relying entirely on biologically grounded, zone-specific reality, not those theoretical national averages that don't actually work. So definitely check your USDA zones because we are building a real living garden today. Let's dive right into Section 1, Building the Foundation, Texture and Architecture. Look, if you want a space that feels like a serene Kyoto temple, real design relies on biological engineering, not just picking out whatever pretty colors get your eye at the garden center. We need structural texture. And that brings us to our absolute foundational pairing, Japanese forest grass, also known as Hakone Cloa macra, and hostas. Just picture this for a second. The late afternoon June light is coming in low. The Japanese forest grass has this cascading, fountain-like chartreuse foliage that gently moves in the breeze, almost like it's breathing. And right behind it, you have these massive, overlapping hosta leaves that physically shade out any weeds trying to grow beneath them. It's just an incredible sensory snapshot. The hostas act as a living ground cover, doing all their own maintenance, while the grass provides the soft, glowing movement. And this pairing brilliantly illustrates exactly how these plants do the hard work for you. It's all about the rhizome system. This is a slow underground root structure, and it is the absolute biological engine driving our living architecture. Instead of running aggressively all over the yard and becoming an invasive nightmare, these plants expand outward in tight, slow, highly controlled clumps. They just build density exactly where you want them season after season. Which brings us to a really compelling financial reality. A single $20 pot of Hakone grass or a high-quality hosta isn't just a plant. It's planting capital. Nobody really tells you this, but you can divide these clumps every few years. One single hosta pot can realistically produce 8 separate plants over a decade. You are quietly compounding a simple $20 investment into hundreds of dollars of mature planting value, all because of that amazing rhizome system we just talked about. Moving on to Section 2, Shade Specialists and Survivors. So let's tackle those really problematic spots in your yard. You know the ones, the boggy low spots and that deep dark shade where literally everything else just gives up and dies. Well, we have 3 dedicated shade problem solvers for you. First up, the Japanese iris, perfect for zones 4 through 9. It actively wants that boggy, soggy soil that would instantly rot most other perennials, and in return, it rewards you with these enormous, flat violet blooms hovering right over the waterline. Next, we have Astilbe for zones 3 through 8. It genuinely thrives in moist shade, pushing up these visually dense, feathery plumes that completely transform dark, flat, boring corners. And finally, the Japanese painted fern for zones 3 through 8. It loves low light and has this natural silver-gray pigmentation that makes it look, well, literally metallic. It acts like this luminous, shimmering ground cover that just lights up the shadows.
But wait, what about the absolute worst spot in your yard? What on earth thrives in dry, root-competitive shade? I'm talking about that dry, dead dirt directly under a massive, mature oak tree where literally everything else you've ever planted has failed miserably.
Well, here is the answer, and the big reveal to our mystery hook. Plant number 6 is Lily of the Valley. This plant absolutely thrives in deep, root-competitive shade. It spreads through those underground rhizomes we talked about to form this aggressive, weed-suppressing carpet, shooting up arching sprays of highly recognizable, incredibly fragrant white bell-shaped flowers. And its biology is completely paradoxical. It literally performs better the worse you treat it. If you fertilize it, baby it, and give it rich, perfect soil, it just sulks. But if you ignore it completely in that dead zone under your oak tree,
it explodes into a self-sustaining colony. You literally turn a total failure zone into the best-smelling corner of your property for zero additional cost. Just one really vital note on this one, guys. It is mildly toxic, so please keep it away from pets that like to chew on things or small grandchildren. All right, Section 3, late season impact and the biological clock. Right now, in June, it is absolutely crucial to understand the underground biological clock of your garden. Specifically, we need to talk about summer dormancy. The bleeding heart is the prime example of this. By June, its deep rose-pink, heart-shaped flowers are totally done, and its foliage just yellows and completely vanishes. The absolute biggest financial mistake gardeners make in June is looking at that empty spot, assuming the plant died, and digging it up to replace it. Don't do it. The root system is perfectly alive. It's just resting, conserving its energy for next spring. Knowing how this biological clock works saves you from repeating a $15 mistake every single year. So, knowing that, how do we bridge that massive, frankly boring gap between September and October? You really need to consider the Japanese anemone and the toad lily. While everyone else is out buying disposable autumnums that are just going to get composted after one season, these two provide permanent, stunning, structural color. For zones 4 through 8, the anemone pushes up these tall, wiry stems with white or pink saucers that hover and tremble in the wind like little paper lanterns. And for zones 4 through 9, the toad lily blooms in late summer through fall with these intricate, speckled, orchid-like flowers right in the moist shade. And it ultimately comes down to rarity. That scarcity is exactly what creates the, wait, hold up, what is that reaction? Almost nobody grows the toad lily. Its flower structure is completely unlike what most casual gardeners have ever encountered. And it's that scarcity that separates a basic, mass-planted yard from a deeply considered Kyoto-style destination. You want people literally stopping mid-conversation to crouch down and inspect those speckled orchids. That reaction, that is worth its weight in gold. Which brings us to Section 4, 3 fatal execution mistakes. Listen, you could buy every single incredible plant we just covered in this explainer, put them in the ground today, and still completely fail. Why? Because mainstream gardening advice constantly pushes blazing full sun and bold colors and flat masses. But the Kyoto reality, the actual biological requirement for everything we've just talked about, is dacled shade, layering, and textural depth. If you put these plants in an all-day full sun site, you don't get a Kyoto garden, you just get a bunch of crispy, dead foliage. So to succeed, you absolutely must avoid these 3 exact mistakes. Number 1, planting in full sun. Like we just said, that will absolutely scorch your shade-loving foliage. Number 2, planting at uniform heights. If you put your ground covers, your ferns, and your tall astilbe all at the exact same level, you just get a flat, uniform mass. You totally lose that serene, layered depth we're going for. And number 3, aggressive fall cleanup. If you go in and cut everything down to the bare ground in October, you strip away the crucial winter insulation that plants, like your Japanese painted fern, desperately need to survive the freezing months.
Okay, so here is your immediate action plan. You have an 8 to 10 week biological window right now. Find that ignored, shaded spot in your yard. Plant these living architectures right now in the warm June soil. The roots will establish incredibly fast, allowing them to anchor deeply and permanently before the peak summer heat stress really hits.
Which leaves us with one final question to think about. Are you going to stay in the disposable trap, throwing $40 away every spring for petunias that are dead by August? Or will you grab a shovel today, take full advantage of this warm soil, and permanently transform an ignored corner of your yard into a breathtaking, compounding, layered Kyoto retreat? The biological window is wide open right now, so what are you going to do with it?